It was quiet inside the limousine until a child whispered from under the seat, "Mommy said find you?" Ethan Caldwell, New York's most ruthless CEO, was on his way to a business meeting. But in that moment he locked eyes with a little boy shivering with hunger. The photograph in his hand opened the lid of the past that Ethan thought he had buried years ago. Because in that photo, for the only time in his life, there was the woman he truly loved. And the child was the last relic of that woman. The city throbbed beyond the tinted windows of Ethan Caldwell's limousine. Horns blared in sharp bursts. Neon signs pulsed with garish light. Pedestrians surged through the chaos of downtown, their faces blurred into a restless tide. Ethan sat in the back seat, his steel gray eyes fixed on a tablet screen. At 52, he was the CEO of Caldwell Ventures, a financial empire he had forged from sheer will. His charcoal suit fit like armor, its sharp lines unbroken. Silver cufflinks caught the soft glow of the interior lights. His life was a machine of precision, board meetings, acquisitions, calculated risks. Emotion had no place in his world. Not since he had buried it long ago. A faint rustle broke his focus. He glanced up, his brow creasing. The sound came again, sharper from beneath the opposite seat. Ethan set the tablet aside. His pulse quickened, though his face remained impassive. He leaned forward and nudged the space with his polished shoe. Something shifted. A small gasp followed. "Who is there?" Ethan demanded. His voice was low, controlled, but threaded with surprise. He expected no answer from an empty car. A boy emerged, crawling from under the seat. His frame was skeletal, his clothes tattered. A threadbare hoodie and jeans frayed at the knees. Dirt smudged his hollow cheeks and hunger had carved deep shadows beneath his eyes. He could not have been older than 11. His brown eyes, wide with fear, locked onto Ethan's. Yet there was defiance in his posture, a spark that refused to break despite his frail body. "What are you doing in my car?" Ethan asked. His tone softened, the boy's condition impossible to ignore. The child's ribs pressed against his skin through the thin fabric, a silent accusation of neglect. The boy swallowed hard. His hands trembled, clutching a crumpled piece of paper. His voice was barely audible, cracked from disuse. "My mom told me to find you. She said you would help me." Ethan froze. The words struck like a physical blow, sharp and precise. His breath caught in his chest. He leaned closer, searching the boy's face for answers. "What did you say?" His voice was softer now, urgent. "Who is your mother?" The boy hesitated. His fingers tightened around the paper as if it anchored him to the world. Slowly he extended it toward Ethan. The CO took it, his movements careful, as if the paper might crumble to dust. It was a photograph, faded and worn at the edges. Ethan's heart stuttered. The image showed a young woman with warm hazel eyes and a smile that pierced through decades. Beside her stood a younger Ethan, barely 20, his arms slung around her shoulders. They were laughing, standing in a park under a sky heavy with summer. It was a memory he had locked away, a life he had left behind. "Her name was Lily," the boy said. "She said you were important to her before she died." Ethan's grip on the photograph tightened. Lily. The name was a wound, raw and unhealed. She had been his anchor once, his confidant in a world that offered no mercy. They had grown up together in a crumbling neighborhood, two kids with nothing but dreams in each other. He had loved her fiercely with the reckless devotion of youth, but ambition had pulled him away. He had left her to chase wealth, promising to return to build a life for them both. He had not. He had climbed higher, built an empire, and let her fade into silence. Now her son sat before him, starving, alone, clutching a relic of a promise Ethan had broken. "What is your name?" Ethan asked. His voice cracked, betraying the storm within. "Jacob," the boy replied. "My mom died 2 years ago. I have been on my own since." Ethan looked at Jacob. The boy's eyes held Lily's fire, her unyielding spirit. He saw it in the set of his jaw, the way he held himself despite his fear. Ethan had built a fortune, but he had left Lily to face the world alone. Now her son had found him, a living echo of a past he could not escape. The limousine moved through the city, its hum a distant rhythm, but Ethan's world had narrowed to the boy before him. He did not know what to do. He did not know how to fix this, but he knew he could not turn away. He glanced at the photograph again. Lily's smile was unchanged, frozen in time. Jacob watched him, waiting, his small frame tense with hope and dread. Ethan's mind raced. It had meetings to attend, deals to close. But none of it mattered now. Not with those eyes staring at him, not with Lily's voice echoing through her son's words. "How did you get in here?" Ethan asked, his voice steadying. "The door was open at a stoplight," Jacob said. "I climbed in. I just wanted to hide. To feel safe for a little while." Ethan nodded. He understood hiding. He had hidden from his past for years, burying it beneath wealth and power. He looked at Jacob, at the boy's trembling hands and hollow cheeks. "Are you hungry?" he asked. Jacob nodded, his eyes betraying a desperation that cut deeper than words. Ethan reached into a compartment and pulled out a bottle of water and a protein bar. He handed them to the boy. Jacob tore into the bar, his bites ravenous as if he had not eaten in days. Ethan watched, a memory surfacing unbidden. Himself at that age, hungry, scrounging for scraps. In alleys. He had clawed his way out of that life. Jacob had not had the chance. "Tell me about your mother," Ethan said. "What happened to her?" Jacob finished the bar and took a sip of water. "She got sick," he said. "She worked all the time to take care of me, but she could not afford a doctor. She kept saying she was fine. Then one day she did not wake up." Ethan closed his eyes. He could picture Lily, stubborn, selfless, giving everything for her son. And he had not been there. Guilt coiled in his chest, heavy and unyielding. "Where have you been staying?" he asked. Jacob shrugged. "Shelters sometimes. The streets mostly. I ran away from foster care. They wanted to take me away from her memory. I could not let that happen." Ethan understood. Jacob was alone, but he was fighting to hold on to something. Just as Ethan had fought to escape his past. The limousine slowed. They were nearing the office, where a boardroom of executives awaited. Ethan made a decision. "Come with me," he said. "We will figure this out together." Jacob looked at him. Hope flickered in his eyes, fragile but real. He nodded. Ethan opened the door and they stepped into the city's chaos. The boy stayed close, his small frame dwarfed by Ethan's shadow. For the first time in years, Ethan felt the weight of something greater than profit. He felt the weight of a promise he had yet to keep. Ethan Caldwell stepped into the gleaming lobby of Caldwell Ventures headquarters, Jacob trailing close behind. The marble floors reflected the morning light pouring through towering glass walls. Employees in crisp suits moved with purpose, their voices a low hum of efficiency. Heads turned as Ethan passed, their eyes lingering on the boy at his side. Jacob's tattered hoodie and dirt-streaked face were a stark contrast to the polished world around him. Whispers followed, soft but persistent. Ethan ignored them. His focus was on the boy, whose small hand hovered near his elbow, as if seeking reassurance without daring to touch. They rode the private elevator to the top floor. The silence between them was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the machinery. Ethan glanced at Jacob. The boy's eyes darted around, taking in the mirrored walls and glowing buttons. Fear lingered in his gaze, but so did curiosity. Ethan recognized that look. He had worn it himself decades ago, a kid from the streets stepping into a world that felt impossibly out of reach. The elevator doors opened to Ethan's office, a vast space of mahogany and steel. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline, a testament to his conquests. A massive desk dominated the room, its surface clear except for a single pen and a stack of reports. Ethan gestured to a leather chair. "Sit," he said. His voice was calm but firm. Jacob obeyed, his small frame sinking into the oversized seat. He looked out of place, a fragile intruder in a world built for power. Ethan sat behind the desk, his hands clasped, studying the boy. Jacob clutched the photograph of Lily and a younger Ethan, his fingers tracing its worn edges. The image was a bridge to a past Ethan had buried, and now it demanded to be faced. "We need to talk," Ethan said. "You cannot stay in my car forever. Tell me everything. Where have you been? Who is looking for you?" Jacob's eyes dropped to the photograph. He hesitated, as if weighing how much to reveal. "After Mom died, they put me in foster care," he said. "It was bad. The first house had too many kids. Nobody cared. The second one, the guy yelled all the time. I ran away 6 months ago. Been hiding since." Ethan's jaw tightened. He imagined Lily, fierce and protective, fighting to give her son a better life. And yet Jacob had ended up alone, running from a system that had failed him. "Why me?" Ethan asked. "Why now?" Jacob looked up, his brown eyes steady despite his trembling hands. Mom talked about you sometimes. Not a lot, but enough. She said you were the only person she ever trusted. Completely. She said if I was ever in trouble, I should find you. She kept that picture in her wallet. Always. Ethan's chest ached. Lily had held on to him even after he had walked away. He leaned back, his gaze drifting to the skyline. He remembered her laugh, sharp and bright, cutting through the noise of their old neighborhood. He remembered her hands, calloused from work but gentle when she touched his face. He had promised her a future. Instead he had chosen ambition, leaving her to raise a child alone. Guilt coiled tighter, a weight he could not. How did you find me? Ethan asked, his voice quieter now. I heard your name, Jacob said. People talk about you. On the news, in the streets. They say you are rich, important. I saw your picture in a magazine once. I knew it was you. Because of Mom's photo. I followed you for days. Watched your car. When I saw it stop at a light, I climbed in. I did not know what else to do. Ethan nodded slowly. The boy's determination was striking, a mirror of Lily's stubborn resolve. He glanced at the clock. The board meeting was in 20 minutes. He should have been preparing, reviewing figures, strategizing. But the thought of leaving Jacob alone felt wrong, like abandoning Lily all over again. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Margaret, his assistant, entered, her arms full of files. Her sharp eyes widened at the sight of Jacob. Sir, the board is assembling, she said. They are expecting your presentation on the merger. Ethan glanced at Jacob, then back at Margaret. Tell them I will be delayed, he said. Something urgent has come up. Margaret's lips pursed, a rare sign of disapproval. They will not be pleased. The investors. I know, Ethan cut in, his tone final. Reschedule if you have to. Handle it. She nodded, though her expression betrayed her concern. She left, closing the door softly. Ethan turned to Jacob. Stay here, he said. I will be back soon. Do not touch anything. Jacob's lips twitched, almost a smile. I will not, he said. Ethan attended the meeting, but his mind was elsewhere. The board discussed projections, timelines, profits. He nodded at the right moments, his responses automatic. But he saw Jacob's face, those hollow cheeks and defiant eyes. He heard Lily's voice, soft but unwavering, telling him he could be more than his circumstances. When the meeting ended, he returned to his office. Jacob was still there, sitting quietly, a sandwich wrapper on the desk. Margaret must have brought it. Thank you, Jacob said, his voice small but sincere, for not sending me away. Ethan sat down, his gaze softening. I owe your mother that much, he said. Maybe more. They talked for hours. Jacob spoke of Lily's life, her late-night shifts at a diner, her stories about the stars, her habit of singing off-key to make him laugh. Ethan listened, each word a shard of a life he had missed. He learned that Lily had never married, that Jacob's father was a fleeting figure, gone before the boy was born. Lily had raised him alone, pouring her strength into him even as her own faded. Ethan shared little of himself, but Jacob's questions were relentless. Did you love my mom? The boy asked at one point, his eyes searching. Ethan paused, the question cutting deeper than he expected. Yes, he said finally. I did. Very much. Then why did you leave? Jacob's voice was not accusing, only curious. Ethan looked away, his throat tight. I thought I had to, he said. I thought I was building something for us. But I was wrong. Jacob nodded, as if the answer was enough for now. Ethan felt exposed, his carefully constructed walls crumbling under the boy's gaze. He did not know how to be this person. Someone who answered to a child, someone who cared. But he wanted to try. As the day ended, Ethan made a decision. You are coming with me, he said. To my home. We will figure out what happens next. Jacob's eyes widened. Your home? He asked, disbelief coloring his voice. Yes, Ethan said. You cannot stay on the streets. Not anymore. The boy hesitated, then nodded. They left the office together, the city's lights casting long shadows as they stepped into the limousine. James raised an eyebrow but said nothing, starting the engine with a quiet hum. Ethan looked at Jacob, who stared out the window, his small hands folded in his lap. The boy was a stranger, yet he carried Lily's legacy, her trust, her hope. Ethan felt the weight of that responsibility settle over him, unfamiliar but undeniable. He had spent decades building an empire. Now for the first time he was building something else, a connection fragile but real. The limousine glided through the city's outskirts, leaving the neon chaos of downtown behind. Ethan Caldwell's mansion loomed ahead, a sprawling estate of stone and glass, nestled among manicured lawns. Its iron gates parted silently, admitting the car onto a driveway lined with ancient oaks. Ethan glanced at Jacob, who pressed his face to the window, his brown eyes wide with wonder. The boy's tattered hoodie seemed even more out of place against the opulence, a reminder of the chasm between their worlds. Ethan felt a pang of unease. He had brought Jacob here on instinct, but what came next was uncharted. They stepped out into the cool evening air. The mansion's facade glowed under discreet floodlights, its windows dark and uninviting. Jacob hesitated, clutching the faded photograph of Lily and Ethan. "Is this really your house?" he asked, his voice small but tinged with awe. "It is," Ethan replied. He led the way to the entrance, his polished shoes clicking on the stone steps. The heavy oak door opened to a cavernous foyer, its marble floor reflecting a crystal chandelier. Jacob's sneakers squeaked as he followed, his gaze darting from the soaring ceiling to the abstract art on the walls. Ethan watched him, seeing the space through the boy's eyes. It was a fortress of wealth, built to impress, not to comfort. He wondered if it could ever feel like a home. "Come," Ethan said, guiding Jacob to a guest suite on the second floor. The room was pristine, with a king-sized bed, a sleek desk, and a window overlooking the gardens. Jacob stood in the doorway as if afraid to cross the threshold. "This is yours for now," Ethan added. "You can clean up. There are clothes in the closet. They might be a bit big, but they will do." Jacob nodded, his fingers tightening around the photograph. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely audible. Ethan left him to settle in, closing the door softly. He descended to his study, a wood-paneled room lined with books he rarely read. He poured a glass of scotch but did not drink. Instead, he sat at his desk, staring at the photograph Jacob had given him. Lily's smile was a quiet accusation. He had left her to struggle to raise a child alone while he built this empty empire. The guilt was relentless, a tide he could not stem. The next morning, Ethan found Jacob in the kitchen, perched on a stool at the island. The boy was eating cereal, his hair damp from a shower. He wore an oversized sweater and jeans from the guest room closet, the cuffs rolled up to fit. Ethan's housekeeper, Clara, a kind-eyed woman in her 60s, hovered nearby, offering a plate of toast. Jacob accepted it with a shy smile, and Clara's warmth seemed to ease his tension. "Good morning," Ethan said, taking a seat across from Jacob. "Did you sleep well?" Jacob nodded, his mouth full. "The bed is huge," he said after swallowing. "I kept thinking I would fall off." Ethan's lips twitched, the closest he had come to a smile in days. "You will get used to it," he said. He poured himself coffee, the routine grounding him. "We need to talk about what happens next. You cannot hide forever. There are people looking for you, are there not?" Jacob's spoon paused midway to his mouth. He looked down, his shoulders tensing. "Foster care people, probably," he said. "I heard them say I was trouble. They did not want me. Nobody does." Ethan's grip on his mug tightened. The boy's words echoed his own childhood, the sting of being unwanted. "That is not true," he said, his voice firm. "Your mother wanted you. I fought for you. And now you are here." Jacob looked up, his eyes searching Ethan's face. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. "You do not even know me." Ethan hesitated. The question was fair, but the answer was complex. "Because of your mother," he said finally. "I owe her. And because you deserve a chance." Jacob nodded, though doubt lingered in his gaze. They ate in silence, the clink of dishes the only sound. Clara bustled about, her presence a quiet comfort. After breakfast, Ethan took Jacob to a study room, where he set him up with a laptop and some books Clara had found in storage. "Stay here for now," Ethan said. "I have work to do, but I will check on you." Jacob agreed, already flipping through a book about constellations. Ethan returned to his office, where a stack of urgent emails awaited. He tried to focus, but his thoughts kept drifting to Jacob. The boy was a disruption, a crack in the seamless order of his life. Yet, Ethan could not imagine sending him away. Mid-morning, his lawyer Richard called. "We have a problem," Richard said, his tone clipped. "A social worker contacted my office. They're looking for a runaway matching." Jacob's description Someone saw him with you at your building yesterday. They are demanding answers. Ethan's stomach churned. What did you tell them? He asked. Nothing yet, Richard said. But you cannot keep him hidden. He is a ward of the state. You do not turn him over, you could face legal trouble. Kidnapping charges even. Ethan's jaw clenched. He is not going back to foster care, he said. Not after what he told me. Find a way to make this work. Richard sighed. I will try, but it is complicated. You need to be prepared for pushback. This could get messy. Do what you have to, Ethan said. Keep me updated. He ended the call, his mind racing. He had not anticipated this, the collision of his ordered world with Jacob's chaotic one. It stood and paced, the study's walls closing in. He thought of Lily, of her strength, her belief in him. She had trusted him to help her son. He would not fail her again. That afternoon, Ethan found Jacob in the garden, sitting cross-legged on the grass, the constellation book open in his lap. The boy looked up, his face brighter than before. Did you know there is a star called Vega? He asked. Mom said it was the brightest one she ever saw. Ethan sat beside him, the grass cool beneath his hands. I remember, he said. She loved the stars. She used to say they were stories written in the sky. Jacob smiled, a rare, unguarded expression. She told me that too, he said. They talked about Lily, her quirks, her dreams. Jacob shared memories of her making paper lanterns for his birthday, of her teaching him to read by flashlight. Ethan listened, each story a piece of a life he had missed. He felt Lily's presence in the boy's words, her spirit alive in his resilience. As the sun dipped low, Ethan made a decision. I am going to fight for you, he said. I'll keep you here. It will not be easy, but I will try. Jacob looked at him, his eyes wide. Why? He asked. You could just send me away. Would be simpler. Ethan met his gaze. Because you are not just anyone, he said. You are Lily's son. And I am starting to think you are part of my story too. Jacob's lips trembled, but he nodded. They sat in silence, the garden bathed in golden light. Ethan felt a shift within himself, a stirring of purpose he had not known in years. He had built an empire, but this small, fragile connection was something greater. He did not know if he was ready. He did not know if he could be the man Jacob needed. But for the first time, he wanted to try. The morning sun spilled through the tall windows of Ethan Caldwell's mansion, casting golden streaks across the hardwood floors. The house, once a silent monument to his success, now hummed with subtle signs of life. Jacob's sneakers lay haphazardly by the staircase. A half-finished drawing of a starry sky rested on the kitchen counter. Ethan stood in the dining room, a cup of coffee in hand, watching Jacob at the table. The boy was devouring pancakes, his face smudged with syrup. Clara, the housekeeper, hovered nearby, her smile warm as she refilled his glass of orange juice. Ethan felt a quiet ache in his chest. This scene, so ordinary, was something he had never imagined for himself. Yet it felt right. 4 weeks had passed since Jacob had climbed into his limousine, a starving boy carrying a photograph and a plea. In that time, Ethan had rearranged his life. Meetings were delegated, trips canceled. His phone, once a constant tether to Caldwell Ventures, now sat silent for hours at a time. Jacob had become his focus, a priority Ethan had not anticipated. The boy was settling in, his hollow cheeks filling out, his wary glances softening. But the outside world was closing in, and Ethan knew the fragile peace they had built was about to be tested. He sat across from Jacob, his expression serious. We need to talk, he said. About what happens next? Jacob paused, a forkful of pancake halfway to his mouth. His brown eyes, so like Lily's, met Ethan's. Are they coming for me? He asked, his voice steady but laced with fear. The foster care people? Ethan nodded, unwilling to lie. They know you are here, he said. Someone saw us at my office. They are asking questions. I have a lawyer working on it, but it is complicated. Jacob set his fork down, his hands folding in his lap. What will happen if they take me? Will I have to go back? Ethan's jaw tightened. The thought of Jacob returning to a system that had failed him was unbearable. I will not let that happen, he said. I am fighting for you, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Jacob studied him for a long moment, his gaze searching. Then he nodded. I trust you, he said. Mom said you were someone who kept promises. even if it took a while. Ethan's throat tightened. Lily's faith in him, carried through her son, was both a gift and a burden. He reached across the table, resting a hand on Jacob's shoulder. "I will keep this one," he said. "I promise." The day unfolded with a tense rhythm. Ethan took Jacob to a nearby park, hoping to distract him from the uncertainty. They walked along a gravel path, the air crisp with the scent of pine. Jacob kicked a pebble, his hands stuffed in the pockets of a new jacket Ethan had bought him. "Mom used to take me to a park like this," he said. "She would push me on the swings until her arms hurt." Ethan smiled faintly, picturing Lily's laughter, her hair catching the sunlight. "She loved you more than anything," he said. "I can see it in the way you talk about her." Jacob looked up, his eyes bright with memory. "Did you ever think about her?" he asked. "After you left?" The question cut deep, exposing a wound Ethan had tried to ignore. "Every day," he admitted. "At first, I told myself I would go back for her. But time passed and I let myself believe she was better off without me. I was wrong." Jacob nodded as if the confession was enough. They sat on a bench watching families play in the distance. Ethan felt a longing he could not name, a desire to give Jacob the stability Lily had fought for. He wanted to be more than a temporary refuge. He wanted to be family. That afternoon, Ethan's lawyer, Richard, arrived at the mansion. His face was grim, his briefcase stuffed with documents. They sat in Ethan's study, the door closed to keep Jacob from overhearing. "The social services department is pushing hard," Richard said. "They want Jacob returned to their custody immediately. They are threatening legal action if you do not comply." Ethan leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled. "What are our options?" he asked. Richard sighed, adjusting his glasses. "We can fight for temporary guardianship," he said. "But it will require proving you are a suitable guardian. They will investigate your life, your home, your work. And there is the issue of Jacob's status as a runaway. They could argue he is better off in their system." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "He is not," he said. "You heard what he said about foster care. It was neglected, scared. I will not send him back." Richard raised a hand, placating. "I understand," he said. "But we need something stronger. A legal tie to Jacob. Do you have any documentation? Anything from his mother naming you as a guardian?" Ethan shook his head, frustration rising. "She never told me about him," he said. "I did not even know he existed until he showed up." Richard frowned, flipping through his notes. "There is one possibility," he said. "If we can prove a significant connection to Lily, it might sway a judge. Did she leave anything behind? A letter, a will?" Ethan thought of the photograph, the only tangible link to Lily. "Just a picture," he said. "And Jacob's word." Richard nodded, unconvinced. "We will work with that," he said. "But prepare yourself. This could go to court. It will not be easy." Ethan saw Richard out, his mind churning. He found Jacob in the study room, hunched over a laptop, watching a video about the solar system. The boy looked up, sensing Ethan's tension. "Is it bad?" he asked. Ethan forced a reassuring smile. "It is complicated," he said, "but I am handling it. You focus on that video. Tell me about it later." Jacob nodded, but his eyes lingered on Ethan as if searching for cracks in his confidence. Ethan returned to his office, where he spent the evening making calls. He contacted a private investigator to search for any record of Lily's wishes, anything that might strengthen his case. He reached out to a child psychologist, arranging for Jacob to have someone to talk to. He wanted to do this right, to give Jacob a foundation, not just a roof. That night, Ethan sat with Jacob in the living room, a fire crackling in the hearth. They played chess, a game Ethan had taught him the week before. Jacob was quick to learn, his moves bold but thoughtful. "You are good at this," Ethan said, moving his knight. "Your mother would be proud." Jacob smiled, a rare flash of joy. "She used to say I was stubborn like her," he said. "But I think I got it from you too." Ethan froze, the chess piece still in his hand. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice low. Jacob shrugged, his eyes on the board. "Mom said you never gave up," he said. "Even when things were hard. She said that is why you got so far." Ethan set the piece down, his chest tight. He had not considered that Lily might have seen his ambition as strength, not betrayal. He leaned back, watching Jacob plan his next move. The boy was more than Lily's son. He was a mirror reflecting parts of Ethan he had forgotten: resilience, hope, the will to fight. As Jacob claimed victory with a quiet cheer, Ethan made a silent vow. He would fight for this boy no matter the cost. He had lost Lily to his own choices. He would not lose Jacob to a system that cared more for rules than people. The fire burned low, casting shadows across the room. Ethan looked at Jacob, his small frame curled on the couch, and felt a clarity he had not known in years. This was his purpose now, not wealth or power, but something far greater, a chance to be the man Lily had believed he could be. The courtroom was a sterile expanse of wood and muted light, its air heavy with anticipation. Ethan Caldwell sat at the defendant's table, his charcoal suit immaculate but his posture tense. Across from him, the social services representative, a stern woman named Ms. Hargrove, adjusted her glasses and reviewed her notes. Jacob sat in the gallery, his small frame dwarfed by the wooden bench. He wore a new navy blazer, his hair neatly combed, but his brown eyes betrayed his fear. Ethan met his gaze and offered a subtle nod, a silent promise: I am here. I will not let you go. 6 months had passed since Jacob had climbed into Ethan's limousine, a starving boy with a photograph and a plea. In that time, Ethan's life had transformed. His mansion, once a cold monument to wealth, now bore the marks of a home: crayon drawings on the fridge, basketball hoop in the driveway, Jacob's laughter echoing through the halls. Ethan had scaled back at Caldwell Ventures, delegating leadership to focus on the boy who had become his world. But the fight for Jacob's future had brought them here, to a courtroom where everything hung in the balance. The judge, a silver-haired woman with a sharp gaze, entered and took her seat. "We are here to determine the guardianship of Jacob Ellis," she began, her voice steady. "Mr. Caldwell, you are petitioning for permanent custody. Ms. Hargrove, you represent the state's interest. Let us proceed." Ms. Hargrove stood, her expression unyielding. "Your Honor, the state acknowledges Mr. Caldwell's resources, but his lifestyle is not suitable for a child," she said. "He is a CEO with a demanding schedule. Jacob needs stability, routine, a family environment. Foster care, while imperfect, offers structure and oversight. Mr. Caldwell has no legal tie to the boy, only a vague connection to the mother, who never named him as a guardian." Ethan's lawyer, Richard, rose to respond. "Your Honor, Mr. Caldwell has provided Jacob with a stable home for 6 months, he said. He has enrolled him in school, arranged counseling, and built a nurturing environment. We have evidence of Lily Ellis's intent, a letter found in her belongings, naming Ethan Caldwell as a trusted figure in Jacob's life. Furthermore, Jacob himself wishes to stay with Mr. Caldwell. Forcing him back into foster care would be traumatic." The judge nodded, her eyes shifting to Ethan. "Mr. Caldwell, I would like to hear from you," she said. "Why should this court grant you custody?" Ethan stood, his heart pounding but his voice steady. He looked at Jacob, then back at the judge. "I am not perfect," he said. "For years I chased success at the expense of everything else. I left people behind, including Jacob's mother, Lily. She was my family once, the only person who saw good in me when I had nothing. I failed her. I did not know about Jacob until he found me, but the moment he did, I knew I could not fail him too." He paused, his throat tight. "Jacob is not just a responsibility. He is a chance to be better, to honor Lily's memory. I have changed my life for him. I am home for dinner, for homework, for the moments that matter. He is safe. He is loved. He is not a case file to me. He is my family." The courtroom was silent, the weight of his words settling over the room. Jacob's eyes glistened, his small hands clasped tightly. Miss Hargrove shifted, her resolve wavering. The judge leaned forward. "Jacob," she said, her tone softening, "would you like to speak?" Jacob stood, his blazer slightly too big, and walked to the stand. He looked at Ethan, then at the judge. "I was scared when I ran away," he said, his voice clear despite his nerves. "I did not think anyone would want me. But Ethan did. He listens to me. He teaches me things like chess and how to plant flowers. He makes me feel like I belong. I do not want to go anywhere else. Please let me stay." The judge's expression softened, but she said nothing, dismissing Jacob back to his seat. Ethan felt a surge of pride, tempered by fear. The hearing continued, with testimony from Clara, who spoke of Jacob's growth, and the child psychologist, who praised Ethan's commitment. Ms. Hargrove presented her final argument, but her words lacked conviction. The judge called a recess, promising a ruling by the end of the day. Ethan and Jacob waited in a quiet hallway, sharing a bench outside the courtroom. Jacob swung his legs, his sneakers brushing the floor. "Do you think she will let me stay?" he asked, his voice small. Ethan rested a hand on his shoulder. "I hope so," he said. "But no matter what, I am not giving up on you." Jacob leaned against him, a gesture so simple yet profound. Ethan felt the weight of the moment, the fragility of their bond. He thought of Lily, of her strength, her belief in him. He had spent decades running from that belief, but now he was standing still, ready to fight for. The judge reconvened the court an hour later. She looked at Ethan, then at Jacob, her face unreadable. "This is not a simple case," she said. "The state has a duty to protect children, but protection is not just about rules. It is about love, trust, and a place to belong. Mr. Caldwell, you have shown extraordinary dedication. Jacob, your words carry weight. Granting temporary guardianship to Mr. Caldwell, pending a 6-month review. Prove this is the right home for him." Ethan exhaled, relief flooding through him. Jacob grinned, his eyes bright with tears. They left the courtroom together, Ethan's hand on the boy's shoulder. Outside, the city buzzed, unaware of the victory they had won. Ethan drove Jacob home, the limousine a far cry from the one where they had met. Crayons rolled in the back seat, a soccer ball rested by Jacob's feet. The mansion welcomed them with open lights, Clara waiting with a homemade cake to celebrate. That evening they sat in the garden, the sky a canvas of stars. Jacob held the constellation book, pointing out Vega, the star Lily had loved. "Do you think she is watching us?" he asked, his voice soft. Ethan looked at the sky, then at Jacob. "I know she is," he said. "She always believed in us, even when I did not." Jacob leaned against him, his warmth a quiet anchor. "I am glad I found you," he said. "So am I," Ethan replied, his voice thick. He meant it. The boy who had hidden in his limousine had not just found him, he had saved him. Ethan had built an empire, but Jacob had given him a purpose. Together they had forged something new, a family born from a promise kept at last. Months later, the mansion was unrecognizable as the sterile fortress it had been. Jacob's room was cluttered with books, model rockets, and a telescope by the window. Ethan had stepped down as CEO, taking a chairman role to be home more. He started a foundation in Lily's name, funding shelters and programs for children like Jacob. The 6-month review came and went, with the judge granting permanent guardianship. Jacob called him Uncle Ethan, now a title that fit like a second skin. One spring evening, they hosted a small party in the garden. Clara baked cookies and Jacob's school friends ran through the grass, their laughter mingling with the breeze. Ethan stood by the patio watching Jacob teach a friend how to spot constellations. He felt Lily's presence not as a ghost but as a warmth, a blessing. He had lost her to his own choices, but he had found her son, and in him a piece of her lived on. As the stars emerged, Jacob ran to Ethan, his face alight. "Look," he said, pointing upward. "Vega is out tonight." Ethan smiled, his hand resting on Jacob's shoulder. "It is," he said. "Just like your mom said, brightest in the sky." They stood together, the night wrapping around them, a family not by blood but by choice. Ethan knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, doubts, moments of fear. But he also knew he was no longer the man who had walked away. It was here, present, rooted in the life they had built. And for the first time he felt whole.